Australia is home to settlements so cut off from the rest of civilization that when access routes are blocked, everything grinds to a halt. When I mention cut off, I'm not referring to places with limited coffee shop options. I'm describing locations where you'd need to travel 800 kilometers to find your first set of traffic signals, where online deliveries can take nearly a month to arrive, and where a trip to the nearest town requires the kind of preparation you'd associate with an expedition, complete with supplies and perhaps emergency communication equipment. The scale of Australia is genuinely mind-boggling. Think continental United States dimensions, but with roughly the same number of inhabitants as Florida. That leaves vast stretches of absolutely nothing. And scattered throughout this emptiness are individuals who examined a map, identified the most faraway speck they could locate, and decided that's exactly where they wanted to be. Let's explore some of these locations where being remote isn't simply a preference, it's essentially a prerequisite for survival. Number 8 on our list, Birdsville, Queensland. Current residents, approximately 115 souls. That is, until race week arrives, when the population explodes to around 7,000, which must feel like an invasion to the year-round inhabitants. Birdsville is positioned at the Simpson Desert's edge, roughly 1,600 kilometers to the west of Brisbane. For context, that's comparable to the distance between Brisbane and Adelaide, except there's no Adelaide waiting at the end, just endless desert. Cell service is non-existent, and the landscape remains unchanging no matter how far you look. The entire town centers around a single establishment, the Birdsville Hotel, which functions as the community's social gathering place, cultural institution, and economic engine all rolled into one. If that watering hole were to shut its doors, Birdsville would essentially collapse as a functioning community. That's quite a responsibility resting on the shoulders of whoever's pouring drinks. The closest medical facility is located 387 kilometers away in Windora, so if you find yourself facing a health crisis, you'd better pray the Royal Flying Doctor Service is available, or you're facing an extremely lengthy, extremely uncomfortable journey while rethinking every decision that brought you to this moment. However, each September brings horse racing events that draw thousands of visitors. Picture yourself residing in a community of 115 individuals, and then one weekend annually, 7,000 people descend upon your town. The population multiplies by more than 6,000%. The portable toilet rental companies must generate their entire year's revenue during those few days.
Number 7 takes us to Coober Pedy, South Australia, where roughly 1,700 residents live beneath the Earth's surface like fantasy creatures, except with more gemstone excavation and fewer elaborate meals. Coober Pedy has built its reputation on 2 distinctions: generating the majority of the planet's opals and having approximately 60% of its population residing in subterranean dwellings known as dugouts. And frankly, when summer temperatures routinely reach 50 degrees Celsius, the underground lifestyle begins to seem quite sensible. The settlement sits 845 kilometers north of Adelaide, and the journey there takes you through some of the most desolate terrain imaginable. It's so bleak that filmmakers chose it for dystopian cinema, including Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, because apparently the location scouts concluded this place looked appropriately hopeless. There's a subterranean Serbian Orthodox church, underground lodging facilities, and underground retail establishments. If you're noticing a pattern, well done. You've identified Coober Pedy's entire approach to urban development. Interesting tidbit, the settlement's name derives from the Aboriginal term Coober Pedy, which translates to white man's hole. That's not an exaggeration. The town's official identity is essentially based on being a hole where white people excavate. That's the kind of marketing you simply cannot manufacture. Number 6 brings us to Innamincka, South Australia. Current population, somewhere between 10 and 20 individuals, depending on your source and whether you're including the travelers who've lost their way. Innamincka occupies the far northeastern section of South Australia, approximately 1,110 kilometers from Adelaide. It's situated along Cooper Creek, which sounds picturesque until you discover that water only flows through the creek sporadically. The remainder of the time, it's simply a parched, dusty testament to the water that once existed. This settlement gained notoriety as the place where explorers Burke and Wills perished during their disastrous 1861 expedition across the continent. So that gives you a sense of the atmosphere here. Visit Innamincka, where renowned explorers met their end. The settlement primarily serves the petroleum and natural gas sectors, along with the occasional adventurous travelers navigating the Strzelecki Track. The nearest medical facility, approximately 402 kilometers distant. The nearest substantial shopping options, Adelaide, 1,110 kilometers away. Requiring new footwear? Better embrace internet shopping and cultivate patience, because that delivery is going to take considerable time. There's a single pub, the Innamincka Hotel, functioning as the community's social center, dining establishment, lodging provider, and likely counseling venue as well, because what other options exist out here? This establishment offers better facilities than many small municipalities, including fuel dispensers, because in this region of Australia, depleting your fuel supply isn't merely inconvenient, it's potentially fatal.
Number 5. Boulia, Queensland. Population approximately 300 residents, all of whom have definitely witnessed the Min lights at least once, or claim they have. Boulia is located about 1,094 kilometers west of Townsville, positioned in the center of Channel Country, an extensive desert region that periodically floods, transforming the entire area into a massive inland ocean. When this occurs, the settlement essentially becomes surrounded by water, severed from the outside world until the flooding subsides. It's isolation, but with an additional layer of even more isolation. The community is celebrated for the Min lights, enigmatic glowing phenomena that materialize in the outback. Scientists attribute them to optical illusions created by atmospheric phenomena. Local residents suggest something more supernatural. Regardless, when you're 322 kilometers from the nearest significant settlement, mysterious glowing phenomena probably feel more intense. Boulia is so isolated that it hosts annual camel racing events. That's correct, camels, because when you're this distant from civilization, conventional entertainment like cinemas aren't really options, so you might as well organize camel races. Why not? What else would you do on a Saturday? The nearest hospital with comprehensive services? Mount Isa, roughly 306 kilometers distant. That's a 2.5-hour journey under optimal conditions. Under challenging conditions with poor roads or weather, you might as well request helicopter transport because that drive isn't happening quickly. Number 4 encompasses the Nullarbor Plain settlements, Eucla, Nullarbor, Border Village. Combined population, perhaps 50 individuals who've all accepted the fact that trees are a myth here. I'm clustering these together because they share one common characteristic. They're situated on the Nullarbor Plain, Latin for no trees. The name is entirely accurate. It's the planet's largest single limestone bedrock exposure, extending over 1,127 kilometers along Australia's southern coastline. Traversing the Nullarbor is a rite of passage for Australians. It's also an examination of your bladder capacity, your relationship stability, and your ability to tolerate staring at absolutely nothing for endless hours. The Eyre Highway features Australia's longest straight road segment, 145 kilometers without a single curve. You could theoretically doze off while driving and remain in your lane. Obviously, don't attempt that. These minuscule settlements exist exclusively to service travelers making the crossing between South Australia and Western Australia. They feature roadhouses, selling fuel at prices that would horrify your bank account, basic but welcome accommodation, and little else. The remoteness is serious business. If your vehicle breaks down between settlements, you might wait hours before another vehicle appears. Mobile phone coverage disappears for enormous stretches. It's just you, the asphalt, the occasional kangaroo, and the crushing realization of your insignificance in the cosmos. Eucla, formerly a telegraph station, is now recognized for its historic structures slowly being consumed by advancing sand dunes. It's the ideal metaphor for existence on the Nullarbor. Everything eventually succumbs to nature.
Number 3 takes us to Marble Bar, Western Australia. Population, roughly 200 people who willingly inhabit what was once Australia's hottest settlement. Marble Bar sits about 1,931 kilometers north of Perth, which is already considerably isolated. It's a former gold extraction town that established its reputation as Australia's hottest community by recording 160 consecutive days exceeding 38 degrees Celsius between 1923 and 1924. The settlement received its name from a jasper rock formation crossing the Congan River, which early colonists mistakenly identified as marble, so even the community's designation is founded on an error, which seems fitting considering that establishing a settlement here was probably questionable judgment to begin with. The nearest hospital is in Port Hedland, 193 kilometers away. The nearest city with actual metropolitan amenities, Perth, at 1,931 kilometers. That's a 14-hour journey, assuming you only stop for fuel and restroom breaks. Why do residents live here? Mining, predominantly. The Pilbara region ranks among the planet's richest mining territories, extracting iron ore destined for China. So individuals endure the heat, the remoteness, and the flies, yes, the flies, because the mining sector compensates well enough to justify it. The settlement has one hotel, one general store, and one caravan park. That's essentially the complete list of amenities. If you need diversity in your existence, Marble Bar isn't your destination. But if you appreciate consistency, extreme temperatures, and solitude, you've found your home. Number 2. Wittenoom. Official population, 0, though authorities had to make it mandatory. Wittenoom was the ghost town that refused to die, and the government was extremely displeased about it. Situated in the Pilbara region, approximately 1,416 kilometers north of Perth, Wittenoom was formerly a blue asbestos mining community with 20,000 inhabitants during the 1950s. Then people discovered that blue asbestos is extraordinarily lethal. The settlement was officially shuttered in 2007, de-gazetted, meaning it's literally been erased from official cartography. The authorities have destroyed most structures, eliminated it from road signage, and terminated power and water services. They've done everything except construct a physical barrier to prevent entry. But in 2018, 3 residents persisted, 3 individuals who refused to depart, inhabiting a contaminated settlement that the government maintains should not exist. Water and electricity come from generators and storage tanks. Postal delivery ceased. Emergency services will respond, but you're executing a liability waiver first. The final resident was forcibly removed in 2022. The health dangers were genuine. Asbestos-related illnesses killed thousands who resided or worked in Wittenoom. It was the most Australian form of obstinacy imaginable. When authorities declare you cannot reside somewhere, naturally you're going to remain there out of sheer principle, despite the health hazard. Obtaining supplies meant traveling to Tom Price, approximately 241 kilometers distant, or Newman, roughly 193 kilometers away. Both journeys take you through Karajini National Park, which is spectacularly gorgeous, creating a bizarre contrast to the lethal ghost settlement. Number 1. Giles Weather Station, Western Australia. Population, approximately 4 to 10 personnel at any moment, all meteorologists who clearly value data collection more than human contact. Giles is a meteorological facility positioned in the Great Victoria Desert, about 805 kilometers west of Uluru and roughly 2,736 kilometers from Perth. It's among Australia's most isolated meteorological stations, established in 1956 and still operational today. The personnel work in rotations, living in seclusion for months at a stretch, gathering weather information in one of Australia's most hostile environments. Temperatures can fluctuate from below freezing overnight to exceeding 43 degrees Celsius during daylight. The nearest settlement of any magnitude is Laverton, approximately 563 kilometers distant. Why would anyone accept this position? Well, if you're a meteorologist who detests casual conversation, traffic congestion, and other humans generally, Giles is essentially paradise. You can concentrate entirely on weather phenomena, atmospheric measurements, and avoiding mandatory office birthday celebrations. The station is reached via a dirt track that's frequently impassable following rainfall. Supply deliveries occur every few months, transporting everything from provisions to fuel. If you exhaust something between supply deliveries, unfortunate, you're not traveling 563 kilometers to the nearest shop for a container of peanut butter. Residing here means your colleagues constitute your complete social universe. If someone possesses an irritating characteristic, you cannot escape it. You're trapped with it constantly for months. It's either a formula for eternal friendships or a psychological experiment examining the boundaries of human endurance. So, there you have it, Australia's most isolated settlements and outposts, where remote isn't merely a descriptor, it's an entire way of existing. These locations remind us that humans are remarkably adaptable beings who will discover methods to survive and even flourish under conditions that appear impossible. Whether it's dwelling underground to escape extreme heat, remaining in a government-condemned asbestos town through pure stubbornness, or managing a cattle property the dimensions of a small nation, these Australians have mastered living with isolation that would drive most individuals completely mad within days. The next time you grumble about your commute or that your preferred restaurant is on the other side of town, remember that somewhere in Australia, someone's other side of town is an 800-kilometer journey through desert where the fuel station might not be operating and your mobile phone is merely an expensive doorstop. Thank you for watching.